I was wrong. 1000% wrong. Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to Yelling and Propelling, episode number 12, and boy is it going to be a doozy. I apologize in advance. I'm just going to be letting it all out for this one and just basing the entire episode around the trade of you-know-who to you-know-where, and if you've been living under a rock and you somehow haven't heard about it, hint, hint, it is not Donovan Mitchell going to the New York Knicks. Rather, he went elsewhere, and let's just jump right into it. I'm going to skip the weekly recap. It's been, 3 days. But listen, I am highly upset this Labor Day weekend, but not at too many different people. You see, I'm not mad at Donovan Mitchell. I feel no hatred towards him whatsoever. I'm not mad at anyone within the Cleveland Cavaliers organization. If anything, I'm happy to see them get such a stud in Donovan Mitchell in a trade where they fleeced the Jazz. But that's it right there, folks. They fleeced the Jazz. Mr. Danny Ainge is the human atop of my list today, as my mother would say. Our final offer to old Danny Boy and the Jazz, after nearly 3 months of negotiations, was R.J. Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, and 2 unprotected first-rounders, along with multiple pick swaps. So, an absolutely insane return for Donovan Mitchell. And in a weird way, I'm very happy that they didn't accept that. I'm almost mad at the Knicks organization for offering that package. But then it wasn't deemed, like Danny Ainge said, it wasn't enough. But then what did he do after that? He didn't go find a better offer elsewhere. He went to the Cavs and accepted a lesser offer, at least in my opinion. You guys tell me if I'm completely blinded by bias, but you tell me which offer is more appealing to you. In a rebuilding scenario, like you're an organization that's just going to full rebuild mode by definition, and which offer would be more appealing to you? The one I just mentioned, or what Danny Ainge accepted from the Cleveland Cavaliers, that being Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, Ochai Agbaji, the rookie they drafted 12th overall in this year's draft, 3 first-rounders, and 2 pick swaps. Is that more enticing than R.J. Barrett, Quickley, and 2 first-rounders? I can't see it. I don't understand in what world that is a more intriguing offer. The only thing, this is the outlier here, and the thing that's been screaming, like, I got to mention this before I go on more of a tangent about that. Like, the only thing is that the 2 first-rounders we were offering, both unprotected, but they were in the earlier years, and I think I touched on this in the last episode. Danny Ainge and the Jazz were highly interested in the later years, like first-rounders. They wanted the 2027 to 2029 range of unprotected first-rounders. And the later you get, like the further into the future these first-rounders get, and if you're giving them away unprotected, then you got to be more cautious, which Leon Rose and company was. So they were much more willing to give up the first rounders in like the 2023 to 2026 range, but anything beyond that, they were very hesitant. So that's where there was a big impasse, and the Cavaliers are fully confident, clearly, that they'll be able to be a winning team, and they're not going to need to rely on the draft for the next 5-8 years. So they were willing to part with those later draft picks. Please don't quote me on this, but I believe that the Utah Jazz received a 2023, 2025, and 2027 first-rounder, all unprotected in the deal. Those were the 3 first-rounders that they got back in exchange for Donovan Mitchell. So that's where it kind of makes sense. And that's it. Like, that's the only thing that I really need to convince myself that, like, that was such a big deal to Danny Ainge and the Jazz that it made it so that the Cavs offer was so much more appealing than the Knicks offer. You know what relevant news didn't break until after the Donovan Mitchell trade went down? Woj reported that at the start of trade talks in July, New York offered Utah a Donovan Mitchell package including R.J. Barrett, Obi Toppin, Mitchell Robinson, and 3 unprotected first-round picks. The Jazz turned that offer down, which led to the Knicks offering Mitchell Robinson the $60 million contract extension to stay with the team. But take a step back for a minute and think about that offer. First of all, it's better than our final last effort offer that we gave to the Jazz, a couple days ago. That offer being R.J. Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, 2 first-round picks, unprotected. In this offer, back in July, we were sending them 3 first-rounders, along with Barrett, Toppin, and Mitchell Robinson. And they said no. So, first let me look at it from, let me direct this, anger I'm feeling towards the Knicks. Why would we offer that? Why would we give that much up? What are we building? What are we going to have for Donovan Mitchell to work with when he gets to New York? Jalen Brunson, Emmanuel Quickley, just a bunch of guards? First of all, let me say this. I value Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickley basically at the same level, and R.J. Barrett's a step above them, and then Mitchell Robinson is maybe a step below them. So just so you know where I'm sitting here, I think that would be giving up way too much. Personally, I feel like Barrett, Toppin, Robinson, and then 3 unprotected first-rounders would be too much for Donovan Mitchell. And we're bringing him back, and we don't have a very, good roster left to build around. And then we got our first-round picks. I know we have 9 in the next 5 years, but depending on, whose picks these are, if they were our own, they're just that much more valuable, and they're unprotected. So, yeah, that offer is absurd to me. That offer would have been too much, and I'm glad the Jazz didn't accept it once again. But now pointing my hatred towards the Jazz, how do you not accept that? How do you not feel that's enough? Were the first round picks not in the later years? Even though you're getting RJ, Toppin, and Robinson, and you can build a lot with that. That for a rebuilding team, you got RJ as your centerpiece, and then you got all these picks, dude, picks on top of picks in Utah. But they said no, and they accepted the Cavs offer. Again, 3 first-round picks, so just compare these players. So both offers, this ridiculous July offer I'm talking about, and the one that the Cavs sent to the Jazz that they accepted, both had 3 unprotected first-rounders. But let's compare the players. So R.J. Barrett and Colin Sexton. I guess you can argue that Sexton's better right now, sure. And then there's Lauri Markkanen and Toppin. I can't see, I don't know in what realm Lauri Markkanen is more valuable than Obi Toppin. I think Toppin's ceiling is about 9 stories higher. And Ochai Agbaji and Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson's a proven, starting caliber center in the league, and then that's Agbaji. Maybe he'll be, kind of decent. Let me not say that. Agbaji is probably going to be a pretty decent player. I don't know, man, but in the words of Alan Hahn, he tweeted this, the day the trade went down, that New York tax is a real thing. It's almost as if they didn't want to do the deal with us after all, and they just didn't want us to be the team that gets Donovan Mitchell. Again, there's very few Knicks fans bigger than me, so I could be completely blinded with bias. But it almost seems as if Danny Ainge preferred to send Donovan Mitchell to a team that wasn't the Knicks. And all the reports were saying there was mutual interest, like they handpicked us. And I don't know, I just feel like all that goes in the garbage. It's all out the window. To shed some much needed light on this very frustrating situation, a reporter who I'm not very familiar with, Rick Busher, released a statement after releasing a podcast episode about the whole situation. He said, quote, "Learned yet another reason after recording the podcast. Some Jazz officials were not happy that Mitchell wanted out and viewed sending him to Cleveland rather than home to New York as payback. Payback is the reason we got screwed over, because the Jazz front office wanted to get payback on Donovan Mitchell for wanting out and for sending them into a full rebuild. Do you believe this crap? I believe this crap, but this is crazy. This is just absurd, man. If they were feeling that way all along, why were they talking to us for almost 3 months? Like the entire summer, all these negotiations. We're not even close to a deal for most of it. And then they just send him somewhere else just to anger, like to get back at him. It's not even like they weren't even trying to get back at us, but like, I don't know, man. That is crazy. I've never heard anything like that in any sport, like in my, however many years of watching sports. This is just like unprecedented. So I don't know how many grains of salt you should take this with. I don't know if you should take a grain of salt with, all of these reports that are coming out, because we got a flurry of crazy, outlandish reports that came out right after the Donovan Mitchell deal went down. So tread carefully. Don't believe everything you read on the internet, but I'm trying to give you guys information from reliable sources, and this is just bonkers, man. Like, I feel like this is only something that could happen in the Knicks, man. Hey, real quick 180 here. Does anybody know why Quentin Grimes is the only player on the Knicks roster that's untouchable? Anybody? Because apparently the Knicks the Knicks front office as a whole found it easier to part ways with R.J. Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley and Obi Toppin instead of Quentin Grimes. Like, did I miss a 10-game stretch during this past season where Grimes averaged like 33 points per game? Bro, I think Quentin Grimes is going to be an excellent player in this league, but he has a lot to prove. I mean, we only saw him play like 25 games last year, and he played well in Summer League, but like, he wasn't scoring like a prime Kobe Bryant. I don't know why we have Grimes so high, and I've said this on the podcast before. I'm not as high on Grimes as most Knicks fans are, but most Knicks fans don't see him, they don't think he holds more value than Barrett or Quickley or even Toppin. But the later offers that the front office was sending to the Jazz did not include Grimes, and they included Barrett, when the Jazz said they want Grimes back as one of the young players in the package. So that should be, at least for me, if I'm in charge, that's already a done deal. Like, he's in the deal. All right, what else do you want? Him, and then I'll include up to 3 unprotected first rounders. Let's work from there. But they just took out Grimes because, like I'm reiterating, the original report said that Grimes was included in basically every deal we were sending to them. But then, later in July and earlier in August, we started, I guess, not including Grimes. And reports came out that, like, the front office views him as, like, an extremely vital part of our future roster. And, man, it was almost as if you guys remember from my last episode where I talked a little bit about how some members of the Knicks organization see R.J. Barrett as expendable and were willing to include him in a deal that brought us back Donovan Mitchell. It was almost as if after the big break that I referred to in that previous episode about 100 times, after that, we saw those members of the organization start sending out the offers. And this is just like speaking figuratively. I'm sure like it wasn't like half the organization, okay, you guys go try to get the deal done. And then like a month later, they couldn't get it. So it's like, okay, it's plan B, like team B, you go do it. I'm sure it wasn't like that, like black and white. Really, I feel like, that report came out for a reason. Boy, oh boy, it's my favorite part. I get to talk about what the Knicks should do now that we've been disappointed yet again. It's happened multiple times throughout my career as a Knicks fan. I don't know what you'd call that, actually. I guess just like serving my sentence as a Knicks fan. What do we do here? What's the future looking like without Donovan Mitchell? Well, listen, guys. I personally am not favorable about where we're going from here. And it's not solely because we missed out on Mitchell. Obviously, that stings a lot, but we're going to get over that. But here's where I'm concerned. Julius Randle is still on the roster. We still have various logjams at various different positions, and there's a decent chance we'll see some of these young players wither away on our bench this upcoming season. And Mark Berman's recently confirmed basically all of this. I'm paraphrasing here, but in response to the question he got on SNY, that question being, will we see the young Knicks get big minutes this season? It was something like, that is not Tibbs' plan, nor is it his style. And that part stuck out to me, his style. Like, bro, what? like the clothes that he wears, his style. He also reported that the Knicks are most likely going to keep their roster as is going into this season and are not going to pursue any more trades during the offseason, which crushes our hopes and dreams of getting a trade done with the Lakers, at least anytime soon, sending Julius Randle and maybe another one of our veterans like Fournier or Rose to the Lakers in exchange for Russ, who we'd just end up buying out, and one of their later first-round picks. A report also came out, by the way, just because I mentioned that, and it's worth noting. The Lakers' later picks, their 2027 and 2020, like 8 and 9 first-round picks, are basically like the most valuable picks that any team in the NBA has right now. And as an LA Lakers fan, like, I'm sure that has to be like disheartening. Like, I don't know. I saw it and people were like, oh wow, yeah, they should capitalize on that. But the first thing on my mind when I read that was like, that basically confirms every executive around the league. Like, they know for a fact the Lakers are going to be doo-doo in, like 5 years. Or, you know what I mean? So that was just something I wanted to make note of. But yeah, what do we have to look forward to going into this season? I mean, it looks like we get to see if Julius Randle can turn back the clock to not so long ago, to how he was in that 2020-2021 NBA season when he was, all-star, borderline MVP candidate. I've said those words together multiple times on the channel because it's just such an enigma how he went from that to just one of the most inefficient players in the NBA the very next season, and just a bad teammate too. That was the part that always concerned me the most. I don't want to watch another season of Julius Randle like losing his temper and all that, like, it's little nitpicky stuff, but all the, like, where he'll like walk past his teammate on the ground when then like the rest, like everybody gets off the bench to like help like Obi Toppin off the ground when like Julius Randle just like walks past him. I don't know, stupid silly stuff like that, but it just shows that like his character wasn't there last season compared to the season before, when he basically went into every post-game interview after a loss and was like, no, put it on me. Don't say stuff about my teammates. Put it on me. And it was a complete 180 last year. And that's just a very brief summary of why 99% of Knicks fans want, Julius Randle off the roster as quickly as possible. And I don't know. If I'm being quite honest with you, I don't think that he gets back to anywhere near his 2020 level. And that's not to say I don't think that he'll have a better season this year than he did last year. I think there's a decent chance that he can bounce back at least somewhat. And who knows, maybe if we're able to run our offense not solely through him, and he's not such a ball stopper and he's more of just like, a guy that can add to our offense and make the extra pass. And, he still is like not a bad playmaker, especially for his position. I know, this is like a picture-perfect example of like the 5th and 6th stages of grief, that being bargaining and acceptance. We have to accept that Julius Randle is going to be on the season at least for one more year. And we just got to hope that it doesn't stunt the growth of our young guys. And the same goes for all of the veterans on the roster. I understand you need veterans on the roster. You can't have a roster full of second and third year players. But when we've given them so much money, like Evan Fournier now, for example, we've invested so much into him that it's like we can't just not play him. That's an actual thing. Like, I know, like, you could say, well, yeah, why not? You can't do that. It's just like in the NBA, when you pay a guy, a role player, that much money, like, he's got to start. And as much as we want to see Quentin Grimes starting at the 2 and Fournier in a lesser role coming off the bench, I think it's more likely that Fournier starts again. Game 1 of this season, I think it's going to be Fournier starting at the 2. I think Derrick Rose is going to play big minutes off the bench behind Brunson. And like I just said about a minute and a half ago, I think there's a decent chance that we see the guys like, well, especially Miles McBride and Jericho Sims. Unfortunately, like, there's not much we can do about that. Like, I like the signing of Hartenstein. I don't think that we shouldn't have signed him. Like, I'm happy with that. And unfortunately, Sims slides down to the third string center spot, and McBride is kind of just situational as well. And the unfortunate one is Cam Reddish. He's like the 11th man here. So if you were to go through the entire 10-man rotation that we'll have, he's kind of the odd man out. And reports came out that he wanted to change the scenery. This is Mark Berman again, by the way, and he later in the same day said that he started commenting cap emojis under every post that said that he wanted to change the scenery. So I don't know where Berman pulled that out of, but most of the time I really do trust what Mark Berman reports to the public. So I'm literally just spewing nonsense now. So let me give my final thoughts on this, and then I'll get out of here. I want to say this first because I misled you guys, and I sincerely apologize. I was wrong. 1,000% wrong. I was on here guaranteeing you guys, like Stephen A. Smith, looking like a clown, that Donovan Mitchell would be a Knick before the beginning of the season. And I was wrong. I seriously, it was something I was very confident in, and I thought this would be the time when we hear of a star who wants to come to the Knicks, and we have the assets to give up to bring him here. And I just thought the stars would have aligned for this one time, and they didn't. So it is what it is. We're all gonna have to get over this. It's gonna take some time, but yeah, it is what it is. I that's all I got for it, really. But I will say this: before this summer, I really think that our management did not deserve to be on a seat that was even remotely hot. Now, I believe they deserve to be sitting on chairs that are starting to get a bit toasty. It's starting to get a little uncomfortable for Leon Rose and the rest of his squad. So this season is big for them. And I think there should be no reason that Tibbs should still be the head coach if we end up performing worse than last year. I don't expect that to hold true. I think that we definitely would go on and fire Tom Thibodeau if we were to just crap the bed this upcoming season. But yeah, I think the front office really needs to be held accountable for this, and I don't think it solely relies on them, just because of the fact that the Jazz, that whole payback scenario, that's crazy. So you can't even get mad at the front office for that, but you just got to look at the facts here and realize that we could have gotten this done if we wanted to. We could have included that third-round pick. We could have included that later. Did I say third-round pick? Oh, good Lord, I'm losing my mind. What I meant to say was the later first-round pick. The third first-round pick, that being the later one, 2027, whatever. So, yeah, guys, that's just about all I got for this episode. I hope you enjoyed me rambling and just, laying it all out there. A lot of news broke, and there's, still things that I didn't have time to touch on in this episode. I'm sure I'll get an episode out again within the next, 2 weeks or whatever. Starting up school again, so that could spell for a little bit more of inconsistent episodes, but listen, I'm not trying to make any excuses whatsoever. So still, like I said in the last episode, expect at least 2 to 3 episodes from me every month. And what better time to go out and say that episodes won't be exclusively on Fridays anymore, because literally, I didn't even say this, literally the morning I posted my last episode, it was the Thursday morning, 8 hours later, guess what happened? Donovan Mitchell got traded to the Cavaliers. So I'm glad I didn't have to make you guys wait, a week and a half to report on it and all that. But yeah, and also follow my Twitter at ccapetta04 for quick and easier updates on how I'm feeling about all the Knicks drama. Shoot me a follow. I'll follow you right back. And yeah, it's just about all I got for you guys. Farewell for now. Have a superb rest of your day or night, and I hope to see you again soon. Go Knicks.